What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest Predator movie, and this is an animated movie still directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who directed the most recent Predator film, Prey, which I did a review on, and I actually really enjoyed that movie quite a bit. I thought the new setting and cast of characters and just how that film played out, it was really fun and entertaining and a unique spin on the Predator franchise. And I don't really have any sort of attachment to these movies. I always enjoyed the Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator, but as far as the sequels go, I haven't I think we saw the second one. I haven't really watched much else outside of Prey. And I think the character's really cool, but the plot in most of these is relatively thin. I feel like they focus really heavily on the action, which I'm all about a good action movie. But there's been something about this franchise that I just haven't really cared all that much for. But with Prey, I really liked that a lot, and I think Dan Trachtenberg does a really great job with the material. And so I was excited to see this continuation, especially choosing for it to be in the animated format. I was curious as to how that would come across, and I'm excited to tell you about Predator Killer of Killers today. Predator Killer of Killers is directed by Dan Trachtenberg. The original animated anthology follows three of the fiercest warriors in human history: a Viking raider guiding her son on a bloody quest for revenge, a ninja in feudal Japan who turns against his samurai brother in a brutal battle for succession, and a World War II pilot who takes to the sky to investigate an otherworldly threat to the Allied cause. So I was really excited to watch this. Like I said, I have no real attachment to the Predator franchise, but I love animated film. I love animated action movies, and I think the Predator overall has a really cool design. I really like the appearance of the character, and I think a lot of the violence associated with the franchise is a lot of fun when it's executed well. And what I will say about this movie, it's definitely fun. It's an entertaining time, but it's not really all that special. It's not something that I would see myself revisiting a ton. I think the animation is really nice. They definitely don't shy away from the brutality of the violence, but this felt more like a collection of video game cutscenes than it did a full narrative feature-length film. And I'll break that down a little bit more when I tell you about the movie today. The plot description breaks this film down perfectly. It's set up kind of in three different stories, and then all the stories come together at the end. The first story is about a Viking and her son, and they're going to get revenge on the man who killed her father, and we see their story play out. Then we're introduced to a samurai who him and his brother grew up together. There was some tension between the two of them, and they grow up, and it's about them as adults kind of clashing and colliding, and then the predator sort of stumbles upon them like he does in the Viking story early on. And then the third story is about a World War II fighter pilot who is out on a boat, and the planes get called out for a mission, and the predator obviously shows up there. And then all three of their stories come together at the end for the conclusion of the film. So, like I said, this is a really fun and entertaining movie, but I probably won't be thinking much about it in the future. It's not necessarily something like I would watch it again, sure, but there's not really enough here for me to care about it as much as something like Prey. And I think a big part of that is the characters are so incredibly throwaway. And I get like you only have a specific amount of time to tell three separate stories and then combine all of them together, but it ends up making the film feel relatively hollow other than the fun action set pieces. And I will start with the positives. I really enjoyed the animation in this movie. The way there's so much detail in the setting and the environment, and the characters look really nice. And I think they pay a lot of really close attention to detail in the animation in this to make it really visually compelling. And one of the other things I liked about the animation is sometimes, when you're switching to an animated medium, you don't know how the violence will translate. And this was still incredibly grisly. There were some really nasty and gnarly kills in this movie. And I think because it's animated, there's a lot more with the use of color and how vibrant the colors can be and the attention to detail. And like, especially when the predator gets cut because his blood is like neon green, it really just kind of lights up the screen and it makes it really electric to watch. And that's what I really liked about this movie, is there was a lot of attention to detail in the animation. I also thought all the voice actors did a really nice job. At the beginning, when they were in the Viking story, it seemed like they were reciting things in dialogue that would have been a part of Norse culture at the time period. There's spoken Japanese in this. There's Spanish in the one section, and so it seems like Dan Trachtenberg really wanted to pay attention to detail with the different cultures and to make sure there were elements incorporated in each one. And I like that. I mean, if every single story was just people coming straight out and speaking English, it would probably feel kind of lazy when it's set in different parts of the world. And so I liked that. I think that mixed with the really talented voice actors also made the story really compelling. I liked that a lot. And I really do like that they're incorporating these different time periods. I think one of the issues with the Predator series, very similar to what I would say about some of my issues with the later Alien films, is it just feels kind of the same thing recycled over and over and over again. And so one of the things you can do to keep it exciting and fresh is to put the character in a completely and totally different situation. And so setting him with these Vikings and then with these samurai and then in World War II, putting the Predator in different environments creates a different obstacle for these characters to have to try to take it down, because the Predator, they're technologically advanced, they have all of these things that these people do not, but they're also just kind of brute strength at the end of the day. Like, they do have camo, but it's like once they get into fight mode, it's easy to kind of trick them and mess with them if you know the right way to do it. And I thought that was cool, kind of showing the technological limitations of the people in those specific time periods and how they have to overcome was another part of the movie that I really enjoyed. My big issue with this, though, like I said at the beginning of the review, is it does just feel like a collection of video game cutscenes, especially like the samurai segment. There's barely any dialogue at all, which was a really cool storytelling method early on. But each one of these stories is the same. It's like the only function that the Predator has to the story is invoking violence. There's nothing else. I mean, which makes the character not super interesting, and you're getting literally the most surface level story of all three characters. And I think with more time, like, you could have taken any one of these stories and stretched it out into a feature length film, and it probably would have been more interesting than juggling all three of them together. Because by the time this hit the third act, when they brought all the stories together, I was mostly checked out. I just didn't really care. I liked the action set piece at the end with all the Predators, the place that they were taken to. I thought that it was really neat, but I just, because the character writing in this is pretty shallow. I mean, they do the best that they can with the brief little 20-minute segments that they have, but there just wasn't enough to pull me emotionally through the whole hour and 20-minute runtime, which made it kind of unsatisfying by the end of the movie. And like I said, I mean, if you're into just the brute action of it all, I think you'll find a reason to appreciate it, because that's what most of the movie is. It's just sheer brute violence for an hour and 25 minutes. But I expected a lot more out of it, and I was a little bit disappointed with it in the long run. And like I said, I'm not disappointed that I watched it by any means, but I don't necessarily see myself revisiting this in the future compared to something like Prey. So have you seen Predator, Killer of Killers? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fun and entertaining, but it's probably not something I'd ever watch again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.